There's a psychological experiment happening right now, and you're in it. Nobody asked your permission, but the results just came back, and they're shocking. If you were born between 1977 and 1985, your brain developed differently than every other human on Earth. Not better, not worse, just fundamentally different. And what I'm about to show you is going to flip your entire self-perception upside down. Quick question. Do you remember rewinding cassette tapes with a pencil? Yes or no? That's all I need. Now, second question, do you remember getting your first cell phone and thinking, this changes everything? If you answered yes to both, then congratulations. You're part of the rarest psychological profile in human history. You're a Xennial. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to prove to you that the thing you thought was your weakness is actually the skill the entire world is desperate for right now. Let me paint you a picture. It's 1985. You're 8 years old. You come home to an empty house, key around your neck. You make yourself a snack, turn on the TV, fiddle with the antenna, do your homework alone. Normal childhood, right? Wrong. While you were doing that, your brain was being rewired. Every problem you solved alone built what neuroscientists call adaptive resilience. But then the wildest thing in human history happened. The world completely changed while you were still growing up. High school hits and suddenly there's this thing called the internet. Not on your phone, in a computer lab. Slow, confusing, foreign. You had to learn it like a language. College arrives and everyone gets cell phones, then text messaging. Then in your 20s, MySpace and Facebook show up. And here's where your brain did something extraordinary. It didn't reject the old analog world. It didn't drown in the new digital world. It built a bridge between both worlds. Neuroscientists call this dual-world cognitive fluency, and it only exists in one generation, yours. Let me prove this to you right now. When you're about to buy something online, what happens? You read reviews, compare prices, think about it, maybe even sleep on it. That's not caution, that's a brain pattern. You learned to evaluate before adopting because you watched new technology fail and succeed in real time. Millennials trust new tech automatically because they were born into it. Gen X resists new tech because their identities were formed before it. But you translate between both worlds fluently. Now watch what happens at work. You're in a meeting, your Gen X boss is skeptical about change, your millennial coworker is pushing hard for innovation, and you're sitting there understanding both of them perfectly. You speak both languages. But here's what you've never realized. You're not stuck between them, you're above them. Research from the University of Louisville found something wild. Xennials have blended generational psychology. You have Gen X independence plus millennial collaboration. You question authority but work within systems. You value tradition but embrace change. Most brains are wired for one or the other. Yours runs both at once. That's not confusion, that's flexibility. And it's absurdly rare. Real example, something breaks in your house. You try to fix it yourself first, right? That's self-reliance. Can't figure it out, you YouTube a tutorial without hesitation. That's collaboration. You don't see those as contradictory, you see them as options. Neuroscientists call this adaptive multi-pathway thinking. Most people can't do this. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Your relationship with social media is completely different from everyone else. Millennials and Gen Z are psychologically wired to notifications. Likes and comments trigger actual dopamine hits. But you joined Facebook at 25. Your identity was already formed. Your self-worth was already built. Social media arrived too late to hijack your brain. You can post something and not obsessively check it. You can go days without scrolling. You can delete apps without feeling like you're missing life. That's not willpower, that's neural architecture. Studies prove Xennials have significantly lower social media anxiety than younger generations. Why? Because you remember when nobody's life was curated. You remember when people just lived. That memory is a psychological anchor you can use intentionally. When you're stressed, think back to childhood summers. No phones, no schedules, just existing until streetlights came on. Your brain uses that memory to recalibrate your nervous system. It's not nostalgia, it's medicine. Now, let's talk relationships. You were the first generation to try online dating when it was weird and embarrassing. Then you watched it become completely normal. You adapted without losing your values. You'll swipe apps, but you know real intimacy needs presence. Technology is your tool, not a replacement for human connection. And if you're a parent, something fascinating happens. You're not hands-off like your parents were, but you're not helicopter hovering either. Researchers call this lighthouse parenting. Present, but not controlling. Emotionally available, but encouraging independence. You're synthesizing the best of both worlds because you lived both worlds. Now here's how to weaponize this starting today. 3 moves. First, own your translator role at work. Stop picking sides between generations. Your ability to bridge Gen X pragmatism and millennial innovation makes you irreplaceable. When younger teammates clash with older management, you interpret. That's not being stuck in the middle, that's being the crucial connection. Make it visible. Position yourself as the integration specialist. Second, embrace disconnection as your competitive advantage. Your ability to unplug is becoming incredibly rare. Therapists now teach what you never forgot. Create tech-free zones deliberately. Phone in another room during meals, no screens first hour after waking, 1 digital Sabbath per week. Don't feel guilty, this is your strength. Third, use nostalgia therapeutically. When overwhelmed, deliberately recall specific childhood memories. The smell of your grandma's kitchen, riding your bike with no destination, Saturday morning cartoons. These aren't just memories, they're neural pathways to calm. Make this a regular practice. Here's the bigger picture. The world is fragmenting, generationally, technologically, ideologically. People can't communicate across differences anymore. And in that world, bridges are worth everything. You genuinely connect with 70-year-old parents and teenage kids. You work effectively with people 20 years older and younger. You're respected by both. That's not soft, that's strategic advantage. Now, think about this. How many times have you felt invisible in generational conversations? Boomers versus millennials, Gen X versus Gen Z, and you're thinking, where do I fit? For years, you were statistically erased. But here's the gift. While Gen X was labeled cynical and millennials entitled, you flew under the radar. Nobody was defining you. Nobody was boxing you in. You quietly built skills, careers, families. And now psychologists are saying, wait, there's something genuinely different here. The University of Melbourne calls it generational fuzziness. Sounds negative, but it's your greatest strength. You're not rigidly locked into one generation. You're fluid, contextually adaptive. That's not confusion, that's sophistication. That's emotional intelligence. That's what determines who thrives in chaos. So here's my challenge. Stop apologizing for being in between. You're not stuck anywhere. You belong everywhere. You're not too old for new tech or too young for traditional wisdom. You're the synthesis. Next time someone asks your generation, say, I'm a Xennial with 0 hesitation, because you're not forgotten, you're psychologically equipped for permanent transition. And the modern world is always transitioning, which means you're always relevant. Your analog childhood gave you resilience and independence. Your digital adulthood gave you fluency and innovation. That combination is rare, powerful, and exactly what right now demands. So stop doubting, stop feeling inadequate. You fit perfectly. You just fit in a way nobody was looking for until now. You're not lost between generations, you're the bridge. Own your independence and collaboration. Own your skepticism and optimism. Own your tech fluency without dependency. Own your pre-social media emotional stability. Own all of it, because you're the only generation that lived 2 fundamentally different worlds during peak brain development. That timing created something that cannot be replicated. You can't teach someone with smartphones what life felt like without them. That's permanently encoded in your neural wiring, and it makes you uniquely valuable. The world needs people who remember unmediated connection. The world needs people who navigate digital without losing themselves. The world needs bridges across generational divides. The world needs you. So stop waiting for permission. You're a Xennial. Your brain is designed for this exact moment. Now act like it.